fellow birdies, and welcome to another edition of Charles's Writing Mukbang. It's a pleasure to see you folks. Hope you've had a good week. Now, today I'm talking about a romance that I've read recently. It's called That Boy. It's one of those small town, friends to, lovers kind of relationship. And I'm going to talk about the good and the bad parts. One moment. But first, I'm having some roasted chicken with some barbecue sauce. Now, That Boy does a lot of things, very well, and some things not so well. One moment. Excuse me. Now, one thing that it does well is basically the characterization of the main characters. Like, each of them feels distinct. And for a lot of it, I really enjoyed it. Like, basically, the main character especially, I enjoyed every moment inside her head. Let's see. And there were points that it really got to me emotional. Like, I teared up at a couple points. Towards about the middle of the story. And the first 2/3 of it were amazing. However, it was the last third that had some issues. One moment. Now, I want to explain an important concept first. Now, in every story, it has a natural ending point. Not just when the camera stopped rolling, but when the story should end. Sometimes the writer ends it too fast, and we're left hanging like, what happened to the main character? Like, did we miss something? And sometimes they keep on going a bit too far. Like, the plot has ended, but the story keeps going. Unfortunately for That Boy, it fell into the second category. I won't, spoil too much, but I'll simply say that by roughly the 2/3 mark of the story, the main plot had pretty much come to a close. We knew who the guy was. They were together. There wasn't any, how should I put this, drama that makes you think like maybe they're going to break up or, secrets that still need to be uncovered. They're together. And then there's an entire 80 pages of just them, going on their first date and officially being together. With nothing really significant plot-wise happening. Like, there isn't a plot at that point. Like, if it wasn't a romance, that'd be one thing. Like, you could have the get together and the 2/3 mark, and then the last third be about whatever drama. Like, maybe you evil villain is trying to poison the world, and we're trying to stop it. But there's no real plot at that point, and there's still 80 pages to go before the end of book 1 of 5. Now, and that's one of the reasons it's very important to know when to end your story. Like, you don't have to, tell everything, nor do you have to, like, immediately end the second the plot ends. But that story would have been an amazing story if it had cut off about, say, 40, 50 pages earlier. Because once the plot is essentially time to come to a close, all that's left is the denouement. Like, the climax is over, the tension's gone, and it's time to bring it to a close. The other major issue that the story had, let me see if I can explain this. I've told you about show, don't tell. Like, rather than tell me that the main character is perfect, and telling that one character is perfect for the main character, show me that they're perfect, and then you don't have to tell me. In this case, the writer actually did a not terrible job of showing that the two characters worked well together. But the amount, and basically, not only was she telling it, all the characters were pretty much telling us, like, oh, you should get together with this person, including the apparent main romantic rival who suddenly gets engaged and then married about 10 pages before the main characters get together. Now, I understand the need to like, not make it miserable for the other characters, but I didn't appreciate the fact that we basically time skip them having an entire relationship and now they're about to get engaged. Like, the actual engagement part was handled very nicely. I have no objections there. But we shouldn't have the characters tell us that so and so is perfect for them. And the fact that even though we're shown a little bit of that, the fact that we're also being told it gets kind of monotonous after a certain point. Like, it's one thing for like one character to say that so and so is perfect for them. It's another thing entirely when the romantic, and basically the other character's mother, not the main character obviously, the other character's mother is basically giving pointers for deliberately getting pregnant with the child of the main romantic character or main love interest. I mean, we just and it stretches disbelief. Like, I can't see that happening. Rather than have the main character go on a date with the main love interest, which has yet to even happen at this point, and that character is unattached mostly. The main character has been in a series of casual relationships, but nothing deep and meaningful. So there's nothing stopping them from just like, let's go on a date or two. Yeah. So, like, you could just, have the main character realize on their own, or at least, like, only one person, like, say this, rather than it seeming like every other character is suddenly shipping these two, to use a fandom term. I mean, the characterization was excellent. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, do I really need 20 pages of like every character telling the main character why the love interest is perfect for them? Still, like I said, the first two thirds of it, I definitely would rate them very highly. Now, the point of what I was saying there is, even when you're showing, that doesn't mean you should tell. Like, that's something that my writing coach even got on me about. Like, because I'd show and I'd tell at the same time, and he's like, just show. That's all you need. If you've shown the audience that so and so is something, like if you've shown the audience that the main love interest is perfect for her, you don't need to tell them that. They're going to see that. And that's true for a lot of things, not just love interests, but also like if a character has dismissed everyone as unworthy of their time, you don't need to tell us that he's arrogant. We know he's arrogant. Similarly, if another character has been afraid of like interacting with anyone for fear of being embarrassed, we probably know that they're shy. Still, like I said, one thing that it does get right is the characters feel very distinct. They feel very real for the most part until it becomes a ship-a-palooza at the end. And that's something that's very important to remember. Like, I'm not just going to criticize these books. I'm also going to tell you the good things about them. Like, the feeling distinct is a very important factor in any book. Like, ideally, you should be able to be in any character's mind and listen to their thoughts, and without even so much as a single name tag, you should know who that character is, just by the way they think and what they think about. Because the alternative is every character feels like a clone of each other, just with a different paint. And sameness, that kind of sameness leads to them being kind of boring, because once you know one, you know them all. Like, for example, imagine a series of videos that are literally me but with different costumes, each saying the exact same thing. It would just get monotonous. But in short, when you're writing your book, one, be prepared to end it when it's time for it to end. You will probably know that point just by pretty much all the tension suddenly seeming to drain away. Because when there's no tension and there's no tension coming, it's time to call it a close. Also, be careful to show, and you don't need to tell us. Like, there are times that you do have to explain things to the audience, but the vast majority of the time, they already know. Now, and last but not least, make sure that your characters feel distinct. Like when you're writing, take the time to make it so that in each person's head it feels like they're a hero of their own story, and their story is different from every other person in that story's. And they look at it from a different way than any other person in that story. But I'll call it quits for today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Have a great evening. Bye, fellow birdies.